Hey everybody, it's Michael with Total Physical Therapy. Today I am going to discuss a pesky and painful condition that sometimes rears its ugly head to the inside part of the arch of your foot, wrapping up along the inside part of your lower leg. Today we're talking about a condition called Tibialis Posterior Tendonitis, what it is, how you can identify whether you do or don't have it, and what you can do about it. So first, let's talk about what this condition consists of. It consists of a muscle belly called Tibialis Posterior. This muscle is going to start on the back aspect of the two bones of the lower leg. It sits deep to your calf musculature, so you can't directly put your hand on this muscle belly without prying some other tissue out of the way. This muscle is going to travel from the back aspect of those bones and wrap itself around the inside portion of the lower leg where we can touch the tendon of this muscle. Now that tendon continues down around the inside aspect of the ankle and attaches to a couple areas of the foot. This muscle is responsible for helping stabilize our foot while we walk, as well as catapult our foot from the ground when we walk, jog, run, or any other type of athletic endeavor. So now that you understand where the muscle is, what it does, let's talk about why a problem with this muscle might originate. Now oftentimes this is a spontaneous event. Myself included, over the weekend, I happened to have a little complication with getting my foot into a cleat and pedal interface on my mountain bike, and for a couple hours repeatedly struggled to keep my foot engaged with the pedal itself. So after all of this fighting, a mere 12 hours later, I got up out of bed the next morning to experience a pretty sharp, intense pain along the inner arch of my foot. Now, upon further inspection, I was able to identify the fact that I had a massive bruise to the region of the foot where this muscle inserts. Now, that's a good telltale sign of the second thing I wanted to talk about, which is how to identify a problem. Now, in addition to this bruise being on the inside aspect of my foot, I was able to touch on a significant bone on the inner part of the foot where a big portion of this muscle actually inserts. Lo and behold, there was a substantial amount of tenderness to this spot, in addition to tenderness working my way back up the leg, as you can see in the video demonstration here. Now, if you don't have working anatomical knowledge, then don't sweat it. If you simply have pain on the inner arch of your foot in this general location here, and you can feel tenderness up the inside aspect of your leg, as seen here, in addition to having some pain when you're standing on the ground and lifting your heels up into the air, or even a little bit more precisely by pointing your toes toward each other and lifting your heels up off of the ground, chances are you may be dealing with tibialis posterior tendonitis. So now that we've identified what it is, how you can identify if you may or may not have it, well, what can you do initially to try to ease the situation? Well, first, the obvious, but unfortunately isn't always as easy as it sounds, is to identify a cause. Did you change your activity levels over the past couple days? Change your activity levels by maybe going out for a weekend walk or a jog or an extended hike with family or friends? Did you have a pickup game of basketball or some other athletic feat over the past couple days? If you can answer yes to any of these questions, chances are it is a tendonitis type of complication, which is an overreaction to performing some type of feat that your body just quite simply wasn't physically capable of handling. So if you can identify the cause, then simply you amend, adjust, and allow your body to adapt to that cause. Now, unfortunately, it's not always that easy, and so if we're unable to identify what the cause is, well, then let's get into the next line of action. I see way too commonly that people immobilize or go to non-weight bearing. And what I mean by this is individuals will put themselves into some type of walking boot, or they'll have another provider prescribe a walking boot because the pain is just too unbearable. Now, while there are some rare exceptions where this might be the case, I highly encourage people not to immobilize because they're going to have a tendency to not engage and move the foot and progressively put a load and bear weight through the foot. This is quite simply just going to delay the healing process, and so a condition that might be favorable to improve over a course of a couple days to maybe even a couple weeks ends up taking months. And very commonly we'll see individuals that are removed from the boot after a couple weeks of wearing a boot go to bear weight in a regular pair of shoes and have a spike in their intolerance to walking. So all of this leads to the fact that oftentimes when we're put into an immobilized state and we're not allowed to put pressure and weight through our foot, we don't tend to think about the other side of that coin, and that is to progressively load, which brings me to my last point. With any type of tendonitis, rest is not the solution. A reduction in the amount of force to the tissue, followed by a progressive loading of the tissue, is what brings about resolve to tendonitis in the most quickest fashion and the most efficient fashion. So now that we know what tibialis posterior tendonitis is, how you can identify it, and what you can do about it, let's talk about when it continues. I'm always one for encouraging people to remain active. Especially in a case with tendonitis, we want individuals understanding what they're dealing with and how they can progressively load this tissue. Now, I can also appreciate the fact that people are concerned about doing further damage or creating further problems down the road, and that's why it's best to just defer to the experts. Come in, speak with a movement specialist such as myself or any of our staff at Total Physical Therapy, and let us just have a conversation about your symptoms, what you've done up to this point, how your body's responded, and then let us take over from there. So, hope you found this information valuable in being able to identify and what to initiate when it comes to dealing with the painful condition that is in the inner arch of the foot that radiates up along the inner aspect of your leg. If you have any questions, feel free to reach us at info@tpttx.com.